Have you seen Nebraska?
I have not seen Nebraska.
Okay.
The state or the film?
Either.
Neither.
Okay. Then why did you ask me to specify? If the answer is the same for both, there's no need for specification.
I love follow-up questions, whether or not I can answer them. I just like them being asked.
Yes.
Hello, Dustin.
Hello, Burr.
It's a great day to talk about some Westerns.
Is it?
Or some Western things.
Okay.
I don't know. Sure, why not? Every day's a good day to talk about Western. Westerns are great.
Yeah.
We recently talked about The Last of Us, which we said kind of takes on the structure and atmosphere of a Western.
Yes.
And that's one reason that show's good.
Correct.
I can't think of many Westerns I've seen that are like not good. Well, sorry. There's plenty that are bad. There's lots of Westerns. I never go, oh God, not a Western.
Right.
I go, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because the Western was so ubiquitous at one point in Hollywood, and then it just kind of like disappeared there for a while. Like nobody wanted to make a Western. Nobody thought they'd be profitable, and it really wasn't until fairly recently that they started to come back in a new form. Like the
mid-2000s?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to actually kind of track it. But I remember like when 3:10 to Yuma came out, the remake. Yeah. I remember that being kind of a big deal because it's like, oh, this is like a traditional Western.
Yeah.
And that was James Mangold and that was Christian Bale. And Russell Crowe. So it had some star power behind it.
That was his follow-up to Walk the Line, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's probably like 07-ish.
I think it was 06, actually. I'll look it up.
And, but I remember that being a thing at the time, like, oh, it's a Western. And okay, 07. So, and it's not that like there weren't Westerns, like obviously there's just always have been Westerns, but it feels like pretty recently that the Western started to come back and it started in like an earnest way. And then it was like, hey, what else can we do with the Western? And so you have movies like Bone Tomahawk, which is like, okay, well, let's do like a horror Western. Or you have... I've heard I should watch
Bone Tomahawk. That's Sam Peckinpah, right?
I have not seen Bone Tomahawk, but I want to watch it. It's on my list.
I've heard it's so violent.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
I'd like to see it. I'm gonna find out what's playing anyway.
And so like then you have the like Taylor Sheridan comes along and says like, I'm gonna make a Western that's like not a Western, but it's a Western. And then Breaking Bad does the same thing, and yeah, man, the Western's back, but it never really went anywhere.
So Bone Tomahawk is 2015, Sam Peckinpah. As of the recording of this in mid-May, it's on Tubi or Pluto or the Roku channel. Okay. So you could watch it for free with commercials.
Sure.
I'll probably wait till June to see if it lands anywhere that I'm paying for already. So I don't have to watch commercials.
Yep.
But it's available. It's out there. So
that I don't have to watch Tubi. Tubi.
Even if Tubi was commercial free, I just
It's called Tubi. I'm not watching this. William Shakespeare, Tubi or not to be
Tubi.
Stupid.
Is that what that isn't what they named? Is that why they named it Tubi?
I'm sure it's tube like the boob tube, like television. I'm sure that's what it is. It's not a Shakespeare reference.
Can you imagine the pompousness of the pomposity of, well, I'm a big Shakespeare fan, so when I made this horrible streaming service, I decided I would reference the Bard and
dude, no, the way that I picture the dudes that run Tubi are like they're in flip flops and they're like, "Yeah, dude, like yeah, man, Tubi, dude,
Tubi.
Hey, do you want to advertise on Tubi?" And they're like, I don't know, what's a Tubi? A Tubi's awesome, dude. And like the word Tubi is in their presentation way too much.
Yeah. They're wearing t-shirts.
Yeah.
Tattoos that say Tubi.
Coors is like, yeah, I don't know if I really want to give you our advertising deal. I don't want to do that.
Please?
Like, come on, dude. That'd be pretty dope of you if you did, dude. But like the Western's back. It hasn't gone anywhere, but it's back and it's new and it's cool and whatever. And it's not for your granddads anymore.
I was wrong.
Because you're the granddads now. Yeah, you old farts.
It's not Sam Peckinpah.
No.
S. Craig Zoller. Why did I think it was Sam? Son of a bitch. All right, hang on. Keep going. I'm gonna figure out why I thought that.
S. Craig Zombie.
S Club 7.
David Esquire. What? Yeah. So I don't know. Let's jump into Nebraska. You want to do it?
Yeah, let's talk about Nebraska.
So you told the sheriff that you were walking to Nebraska?
That's right. To get my $1 million.
This is Woody Grant.
We are now authorized to pay $1 million to Woodrow T. Grant of Billings, Montana.
This is his son.
You didn't win anything. It's a complete scam. So you got to stop this, okay?
I'm running out of time.
This is his wife.
I never knew the son of a bitch even wanted to be a millionaire. You should have thought about that years ago and worked for it.
How much longer is he going to be around? And what's the harm in letting him have his little fantasy for just a couple more days?
This is his family.
Woody here's the talk of the town. Why didn't you tell us you was rich, Woody?
David said not to.
You got it on you. Yeah, we sure would like to see what $1 million looks like.
And this is the problem.
God damn, Woody Grant's a millionaire! Next round is on Woody.
If Woody hit it rich and I don't see any of it, that would be wrong.
Are you threatening my family?
Everybody's saying how Woody Grant's a millionaire.
That's no big deal.
No big deal. Jeez, $1 million here, $1 million there. Well, the newspaper's gonna do a big write-up on you.
Honestly, right? Woody didn't win anything. You're a damn liar. Hey.
Come on, have a beer with your old man. Be somebody.
Nebraska is not really a Western. Sort of. Not really, but whatever. Like, it's set in Montana or okay.
It's
maybe.
not in Nebraska?
Well, I think they go to Nebraska, but they start in Montana. But so
Billings. Sorry, you're right. Yeah, so it's in the Midwest.
It's in the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's Western-ish in its production.
Yeah.
So Nebraska was released, I believe, in 2013. 2013 stars Will Forte, Bruce Dern, Bob Odenkirk, and a bunch of others, and a bunch of locals. It's just like a bunch of like real people who aren't actors. And I always love when movies do that because you get some really earnest performances out of those folks. And some of them aren't quite up to snuff, but some of them are really honest and feels real. And that's cool. But the premise behind it is Bruce Dern is, an older man. He has very little to his name. He's, not doing well financially, just not doing well with his health. And he receives a letter in the mail that says, you've won $1 million. Come to wherever to claim it. And his son, played by Will Forte, is like, yeah, this is a scam. Like, everybody gets this type of letter. It doesn't mean anything. But his father becomes obsessed with the idea of going to collect his money. And in the process, they go back to where he kind of grew up, his old home place, and where Will Forte lived as a child. And they run into some of the locals there that had once known them when they were young, and word gets out that he's won $1 million, and so people start to treat him differently, and then the whole thing is like, we've got to get over to pick up this money, but does the money really exist? And really, like, the journey is way more important than the destination here. Like, the plot, of course, is let's go pick up the money, but that's really not what the movie's about. The movie is about a father and a son who learn much more about one another than they had previously known. And by revisiting the past home places of his father, Will Forte is able to kind of like glean, like, this is what my dad is, have more respect for him and more appreciation for him, but also kind of feel more sorry for him and the way that his life turned out. And so, yeah, it's kind of an introspective piece. And again, it's just way more about the journey than the destination. I eventually landed on 3 stars for this. I do think it's a fine movie. I do recommend it. But it's slow. I think it's about 2 hours long. It could stand to be shortened by 15 to 20 minutes because the story isn't super complicated. And really, after a few scenes of telling me like, oh, he wasn't always poor, or he wasn't always an alcoholic, or he was always an alcoholic, or whatever, like, after so many of those scenes, like, I get the point, like, at a certain point, you're just kind of beating the dead horse, and you have like people treating him differently. And it's like, okay, I get it. I understand this. I don't need to see 15 vignettes of this. I just need, a couple, and I get the idea. Yeah. And so that's just me looking at it saying like, I need to be economical. Y'all ought to be more economical about this than you are. Like, you can cut some of this, but I also think maybe I hurt myself on the viewing. I did have to watch it in 3 pieces, which of course made it feel longer than it was. But I do still stand by, like, I think it's overly long for the simplicity of the story. But having said that, it's got really solid performances. Will Forte is great. Bruce Dern's great. And the direction by Alexander Payne is also great. And it's shot in black and white, and it feels, old, but modern. And it feels like a Western, but also like a weird road trip coming of age type thing. And, it's a little bit of a lot of things. And it is streaming on Paramount, I believe, is where I watched this.
Yes.
So yeah, if you have Paramount and you're looking for something that's really mellow, like really mellow, I would say Nebraska's for you. And certainly if you have a larger attention span and feel like, you don't need to stop and scroll TikTok every 15 seconds, and you can watch a movie in large chunks, then this is for you. But just be aware. I mean, it's on the slow side. It's certainly not. I think the way I put it in a Letterboxd review is I wasn't bored, but I wasn't riveted either. So it's just exists somewhere in the middle, and great performances really help anchor the film. So yeah, and a great screenplay. And like I said, some great moments with like non-actors who are just real people. So yeah, I do recommend it. It doesn't get the highest marks ever, but yeah, I do recommend it.
This was Alexander Payne's follow-up to The Descendants.
Yes.
Before that became synonymous with Disney stuff. The Descendants was a movie with George Clooney.
With George Clooney, yeah.
And I think that's where people like became aware of Shailene Woodley.
Yeah. I own The Descendants. I've never seen The Descendants.
I've seen it. I don't remember it. I mean, okay. And then the movie came out 12 years ago. So
yeah,
but it's one of those movies, you're watching for, there's profundity. And I mean, and he wrote, directed, produced that whole thing. So it's probably a lot more singularly his vision than something like Nebraska would be, or apparently I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry, which he did not direct, but he wrote it.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay.
He had to make some money in the years between The Descendants and directing Sideways.
Yeah, right.
But I remember when Nebraska came out, it was like, I heard about it all the time. I would see like ads. I would see like, the Palm Deal or whatever. Like I'd see like just festival advertising for it and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember it being nominated for a bunch of Oscar. I suppose I watched that year because I remember Nebraska came up constantly. I didn't know who Bruce Dern was before Nebraska came out. So I don't know if that's me or if that's just an age appropriate unawareness of him before this movie.
Yeah, I was unaware of him also. I mean, obviously I know his daughter, but I did not know him. And yeah, man, like I remember it too. The festivals loved it. It, you know, had everybody's laurels all over their trailer. And it was nominated for 6 Oscars. It did not win any, but it was nominated for 6. And yeah, man, it's like I said, I mean, it's a good movie, but it's just slow. And I don't think it's going to hold up for me to like want to rewatch it. Which of course drags it down. Like that's one of the big perks of our star system, which by the way, I've been thinking about our star system, and just for anybody not jumping on, like to explain my star system anyway, my star system is strange, but it's how much did I enjoy the film, not indicative of the film's quality. Right. Because there are certainly movies that I would give higher marks to than they deserve. Like the movie Airheads, not Airheads. Is it Airheads? Is it Airheads? Is that that's the one with Brendan Fraser, right? Yes.
Yes.
I love that movie. That is a fantastic movie, but it is not a great movie. Right. And so it does not deserve as many stars as I will give it, but I will give it a lot of stars.
It's a measurement of how worth your time was this experience.
How worth your time. Yeah. And anything above anything 3 or above is a passing grade, is a recommendation. Anything below 3 is not. And generally like 2 stars is I just don't care, and 1 star is I really hate this thing. And you have all your half stars in between, but like, you know, so for this, like 3 stars, it sounds weird if I'm like 3 stars, I recommend it, but 3 stars is a passing grade. It's just barely, but it is. Yeah. And so like I recommend it, and I could see a 3-star film being recommended by me to somebody in specific circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like over the years of doing this show, we've used to not have a star system. Like we probably went through a period where we principally talked about movies we didn't like. Yeah. We developed a star system. We've probably attempted to give films an objective grade before. And we're at the stage now as people and as critics, I suppose, where it's just, it is all about, am I sorry I spent time doing this?
Yeah. Right.
And not so much like, I hope people don't think we're here to like tell them exactly like how good something is, because we can't do that.
No, because film is not an objective truth. Like I can't say The Godfather is an objectively good movie as much as I would want to.
Sure.
I can't do it. I have to say The Godfather is one of the best movies I've seen, one of my favorite movies. And if you watch it and say, I actually hated that, okay, fine. But like, you're wrong, but fine. Like that's your opinion. But you know what I mean? Like it's subjective. And
if you think that movies have an objective value or an objective, good or bad, just have one conversation with my wife about a film or a TV show. And that will disabuse you of the idea that there's anything objective about reviewing films. Look, it can be frustrating, but I can tell you, like, the whole idea is that I could tell her over and over again why such and such movie is actually brilliant, and it didn't work for her. It's because yes, I know more about the intent or the subtext or whatever, and she doesn't matter. The film only satisfied half its audience in that sitting. A great film can do both. I'm stimulated by all the stuff going on, and hopefully she is too and picks up on it. And sometimes it's just, we're both bored. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, I respect the effort. But we're both like, that sucked though, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like Nebraska is one of those movies where you look at it and go, like, technically it's a great movie.
Right.
Like if someone were to say, Dustin, like what, on a scale of 1 to 100, what's your grade? Right. Like we're in school. What's the grade of this film?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, of the things that it tries to accomplish, it accomplishes most of them. So I've got to give it really high score. But the problem is, you know, I could give it an A+ or a B+ or whatever, but it doesn't, like, that at the end of the day, it still means for me. And so what's the point of me trying to say this movie is worth more than I'm willing to give it? You know what I mean?
Like most movies will pass the objective test of, I did the thing. I turned in a film to a studio that had a start and finish.
Yep.
There's no mistakes in it.
Yep. Yeah,
like
right.
The edited assembly is fine. No technical errors.
Yep.
And it's just like, okay, cool. Like if you're a teacher grading a project, like you did the assignment. You did the assignment.
Totally.
But there's a giant criteria for subjectivity.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, and it's true. Like I'm looking at my letterbox now, and like there's a lot of like 2 stars on there and whatever. And it's like really like a 2-star movie is just something that I didn't really care for. I wouldn't recommend it. And I just don't care enough about it to be passionate about it one way or another. Right. But like the most of the films that I've watched, the most handed out grade on my letterbox is 4 stars. And to me, what that means is, the majority of the movies that I watch, I like. And like there's this old quote, and I used to live by it. Like Steven Spielberg said something once, like, I'm paraphrasing. Every time I go to the movies, it's magic, right? Like he could find something that he likes about every movie he sees. And I used to be more like that than I am now. But the truth of the matter is, I do end up liking a lot of the things that I see. And it takes something really spectacularly bad to make me hate it. And it takes something really spectacularly negligent for me to be ambivalent about it.
Like anyone can be a critic.
Yeah.
Anyone can. It's just, we could go down a rabbit hole of this because we have before,
sure.
but the idea that a film literally, its value is completely in the eye of the beholder. It either works for you or it doesn't.
Yes.
On a somewhat sliding scale, but studios and certain creators have long perpetuated this idea that because a movie looks important, it therefore is important.
Sure.
Nebraska, maybe a 3.5 for you.
Yeah.
But like to certain people, you look at it and go, oh, that's like an art movie. And some people go, no thanks. Or some people go, oh, okay. And they watch it and they just go, oh, well, that's the art movie. I don't know. Maybe I don't get it. It's like, but if you listen to the director or the writer talk about that movie, sometimes they'll say something really like lofty and like, oh, I guess I'm not on your level. That is kind of hard to understand. But some of them will be like, to me, it's just a story about forgiveness. And you're like, is that it?
Oh,
that was all about forgiveness. Like there's so much other like things that are suggested that I don't know what they are, but there's things that are suggested.
There's stuff. Yeah. Right.
And then that just comes down to, the cameraman had some ideas and the production designer had some ideas. The actor had some ideas. And so you'd have to ask them what they think the movie is. Yeah. And then you go, oh, right. It's not a one person. It's not a thing. It's not a one person vision.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's weird like that.
It is. But I agree. Anybody can be a critic.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you can articulate it.
But you can't all have a podcast because a lot of you don't know what you're doing. Don't know how to do it.
You could have a podcast, but
you could, but you won't.
I wouldn't listen.
All right. As anyone who didn't drop off after hearing that from Dustin, let me talk about something Western I watched.
Do it.
Called Godless.
Where are all the men at?
Good. Vine took them.
All of them. How has the town fared without any men around?
Someone's got to look after things around here.
A town full of ladies. Bang, bang. It's ripe fruit for the wicked. Bang,
bang. Frank Griffin's been looking for Roy Good.
He's going to kill anyone that Roy Good loves or cares about.
The good people of Creed let them walk their streets. Now they don't have no streets.
When he finds out who's living here, God help you folks.
Mister, we're a lot fucking stronger than you think we are.
There's something I gotta finish. I'm bad luck.
We have that in common then.
This here's the land of the blade and the rough. It's Godless country.
It's got a cool name.
It's the TV series.
It's the TV series. Streaming television is what's being called. It's a Netflix show.
Sure.
It's a 7-episode limited series on Netflix. And so it is created, written by and directed by Scott Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know who Scott Frank is is a writer, director. I knew who he was upon learning of the series because he wrote Logan and he wrote the Wolverine. But he's written and he wrote Minority Report. What else did he write of note that I tend to like? Oh, he wrote Get Shorty. That's a great movie. Did he do
The Queen's Gambit too?
Yes, that was another Netflix series that he I guess helmed. Creator, executive producer, writer, director, Queen's Gambit. And I love the Queen's Gambit. I thought that was a really well executed show. So he's one of those people where it's just like, oh, what do you call him? It's like he's a creative person. He's a creative professional, and he does all of it. So that's Godless. So Scott Frank has this show was made. Let's see, when did this release? 2016? No, 2017 is when it released. So the movie is it's set in 1884 in Colorado. It says New Mexico. I thought it was Colorado. Anyway, the West.
Sure.
Who cares? It'll say on the title card if you watch the show.
Yep. There you go.
And it's about this young outlaw played by an actor named Jack O'Connell. He's wounded. He's running from his group, and he takes refuge in this town that's populated mostly by women. A lot of the men in the town were all killed a year prior in a horrible mining accident. Like the mine collapsed, and it killed like a bunch of the husbands and fathers and elder men of the town. And so the town is called LaBelle, I think. And so LaBelle is like, the women are sort of forced to kind of step up and into these role. I mean, a lot like World War II in a way. Like it's just a lot of these businesses are run by them. They're the ones kind of running things. Sheriff is still a man. Deputy is still a man. There's a few men who are in town who didn't work at the mine, but their chief means of like their export, is ruined, and so they're kind of in a bind. Like, okay, they're in the process of picking up the pieces after all that mess, and then trying to find buyers and companies who will come take over the mine without totally screwing them over. And in the midst of this outlaw wanders into town, and you essentially learn that he is running from a man named Frank Griffin, played by Jeff Daniels. And Frank Griffin's bad news. You don't want Frank Griffin to find you. And Frank Griffin has been massacring settlements and cities and towns in his search for this man, Roy Good. And has always, vowed essentially anyone who gives him quarter, I'll kill I'll kill the whole town, So that's the looming threat, is the arrival of Frank Griffin. And we're sort of building this relationship between Roy Good and Alice Fletcher, who's played by Michelle Dockery here. People may know her from Downton Abbey. There's a story to all these people that you kind of learn over the course of the episodes. You sort of learn why Alice lives not in the town, why she doesn't like the townspeople, why she lives on a ranch outside of town. You meet her son, and the sheriff is going blind, and his sister lost her husband, and she's, so there's all these relationships, and the deputy. So anyway, the series is worth the watch. I would probably give it, if I were to attempt a star rating, it would be 3.5, 4 stars. Godless is worth it. I think it's a really great atmosphere. The production design is really great. It's a little slow while we're establishing characters and we're establishing LaBelle and what's their deal, and here's each character, here's their general demeanor, so that you can track their choices when they're in subsequent scenes. It's a drama, and I wasn't expecting the drama to be the primary draw. I was hoping for some more dramatic tension, some more square offs, a little bit more tension. Not slow character growth, which of course is fine. It's just, I felt like it needed some balance. But that could also be me expecting something of this show that it's not promising me. Mm-hmm. But what was great about it is the final episode gave me what I wanted regardless. I mean, like it delivered. It's really satisfying. Everything comes together. All the characters kind of converge in a really, truly great extended shootout sequence. And it's remarkable. Yeah. It's a great payoff. It's really well shot. I'm oriented perfectly. Every character gets a really great moment. Just what you want out of an action sequence, especially like a finale or, third act climax sort of thing. Like everyone does a thing and you're like, yeah, person. Yeah. So anyway, if anyone listening has Netflix and you haven't seen Godless, I mean, you could again, I don't know people's streaming habits, but I watched Godless. I watched like an episode a night for like a week, basically, and that was a good way to do it. You could binge it. I think the show would be hard to binge. I don't see anyone who's sitting down watching 4 hours of Godless. Sure. It's just not that riveting. Sure. So I would I'd pace yourself. But I'd recommend it for sure. So sweet. Yeah, that's Godless, everybody. Yay. So cool. All right then. Well, everyone go have a Godless weekend.
Go have a Nebraska weekend.
Go to Nebraska and do some Godless things.
Win $1 million.
Win $1 million. To some people, the lottery is godless. So you just go buy a lotto ticket and there you go.
There you go.
Tell them the Hoopercast sent you.
The Hoopercast made you buy a lottery ticket.
We and you will receive no money for doing so.
That is correct. But if you do, then we need part of it.
Any way we can bind you to giving us your winnings. That's what we're
just asking for 10%.
Please give us money. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Do you think there's a multiverse where everyone's just constantly farting?
There's like a
gas.
Yeah,
within our systems.
Everything's the same. We just evolve without anuses, and so like you die at like 30 because you can't poop. It just stays. And rich people can like afford to have like colostomy bags and stuff.
Sure.
And so they're like, hey, it ain't pretty, but it's keeping me alive to make some more money.
Yep.
And if you're poor, you're just like, oh, and it's like telling someone they're full of shit is like, it's not like a horrible insult. It's like a fact. It's not full of shit, buddy. It's like that. It's like a measurement of how close to death they are.
Ah, there you go.
It's like, oh yeah, well, I'm full of shit, but not as full of shit as you are. Oh, I know. So full of shit. Die.
What if there's a multiverse where just everyone is a fart? We're all just vapors. Stinky vapors.
Can you imagine like in Multiverse of Madness, like Doctor Strange and America are like falling through they're going through the universe with their paint. There was one of their cartoons. They break in, one's just farts. So you're just like crash. And he's just like, oh, Jesus. Oh. And
it's this epic music and you hear
Can you imagine Sam Raimi goes to Danny Elfman and he's like, I need like 3 seconds of this score where it sounds like farts. And Danny Elfman's like, what?
I'm not doing that.
What did you say?
I will not do that, Sam.
You want me to make farts? like as music?
Yes.
Please?
Yeah.
Please, Danny. Please.
Please help me.
Please help me.
Help me achieve my vision. It's called fart music.